So I want to look now at what happens then with epsilon omega verbs, because we noticed in the present tense with some of them that the endings were slightly different. So when we looked at philo, the weak epsilon, which is there, and it drops out in the case of the first person singular. So you would actually have philo, you would see it like that written. And then with the other endings, the epsilon combines with the other vowels that are endings. And so it creates something like this in the first person plural. So instead of just omen, we have umen. Okay, so the you end up with this extra letter in here, and the same with the third person plural. I know third person plural stays as it is because it's just philusin, isn't it? So it's the second person where you get filete. So you end up with this extra iota that kind of sneaks in. So these contractions that are taking place, well, they actually are no longer going to occur. And the reason for that is because when you stick the stem in, the epsilon itself is now not next to the ending. Okay. Let me explain how that works. So first of all, the prefix is going to be the same. And the stem this time is going to be slightly different for you. So we have a stem which is philesa, or phil, because I haven't got the ending on it just yet. Okay, so what happens here? The epsilon part of it, which is part of the lengthens, okay, and you still have the sigma with it. So the reason why it doesn't disappear, which it does in the imperfect, is because there's a sigma kind of in between the epsilon part and the ending. Okay, so there isn't any contraction that takes place because of the sigma. So the ending can then be identical, and that's probably a good thing. And so we end up with the full word, which is a philesa. And then the rest of it is similar, although I've split it up here. Your prefix is going to be the same. You have the same stem, and then you just have your ending, which is then going to be as it is. So you're going to have a philesas, a philesas. And then actually what's going to happen is all of the endings are just going to be identical to the non epsilon omega verbs. All right, all you're just going to have is this extra eta that just appears as you work your way through. So if we could just then write these down, because once we know what the stem is, I would love to, but my Surface has actually crashed again. Oh, right, back up. Yes, listen, that's good. Right, written down as it should be. Okay, so the thing to remember here is perhaps simpler in one sense than even the present tense. So all of the endings are the same as they were for luo. Just notice that with your epsilon omega verbs, that you have this extra eta then that's just going to slot in between the main stem, if you like, and the sigma part. right? And that's it really. There is an exception to the rule, which is callow. So callow doesn't lengthen the epsilon, okay? It just goes to a calissa. So the majority of them will lengthen their epsilons to etas. For some reason, callow, which is to cool, doesn't. Okay, so that's just one of those ones you just got to stick in your brain and remember, right? And so we can see in similar examples, perhaps just to illustrate, Petros a philisen to biblion. So that was Peter. And then we've got the verb to love. We're in the past, we're in the aorist tense. So Peter loved the book. And then here we've got in number 2, so hoi leoi. Okay, so we've got a plural noun there, haven't we? Because we've got the nations. So that's what Laos is, a people. If you have leoi, then we tend to speak about nations. Okay, so the nations. And then uk. Oh, forgot a little thing over that. So uk. So hopefully you remember that means the negative, so not. And then we've got a zetasan. So we have got, this is our kind of main stem, isn't it? Right. From Z. So there's our verb, which is to seek. Okay. So if you see what we've done with our lengthening of the epsilon, and we are in the third person plural. So the nations. So we've got to seek here. So did not seek. And then to you angelion, which is good news, right? So the nations did not seek good news, or did not seek the gospel. Okay, probably should put that in the good news. Okay. Right. So there was one verb which we should just we'll touch on here. Okay. So this one looks a little bit peculiar because of the eta with the iota subscript underneath it. So Mary is the noun at the start, and then this comes from the verb ato, and that's in the vocab chap 6, which is to ask. Okay. So the eta iota bit at the start comes from the epsilon contracting with the alpha and the iota, and so it's combined. It ends up becoming this eta with this iota subscript. Okay. So it looks like the stem is like just a little bit, so it can be a bit hard to spot. So you kind of got to learn those ones. Then you've got your lengthening of your vowel of the epsilon, and then you've got your ending. Okay, so Mary asked is what that comes down to. And then we've got ta, pista, tekna. Okay, so we've got ta, tekna, and then we've got a little adjective which I've thrown in to the mix. So ta tekna is the plural of teknon. Teknon is a child. So Mary asked, and then we've got pista, which is faithful. So Mary asked the faithful children. Right, and then there's one other example just to add in there, that there are some special cases. So we've mentioned a couple of special cases, and one special case, and well, no, it's not really so much a special case. It's one that looks like it's a compound verb, but it's not. It doesn't behave like one. So I think I just forgot to put in so the this is eulogo, which means to speak well of or to bless. Um, but it seems in the New Testament that they don't always use the form that you might have expected, which would be to have I'll put that over the wrong thing, by the way. So you would have expected an epsilon at the front to turn it into this, but it doesn't. So you sometimes find that the this sort of change at the start doesn't always take place, but you'll still know that you're dealing with an aorist tense because of this ending. Okay, so eulogo should probably be eluga, how do you say that? Eulogu. But it doesn't change the front. Okay, and so this is just one of those special cases. This is a second person singular, and so you bless. Okay, so we're still in the aorist tense. So you blessed. We want to go in the past. So you blessed the God of heaven, which is ton theon, and then tu orinu, which is in the genitive case. So you bless the God of heaven. Right, hopefully you kind of picked up what was happening there, where sometimes the change that you expect at the start of a verb doesn't always take place, but that is quite rare. Okay, there's a little bit to sort of get your head around, really, with the aorist tense. It is a very important tense to master because it's very frequent, and so it's obviously going to appear quite a lot. So you may well be able to tackle some of these sentences. We have kind of run out of time for the lesson this evening. Sorry about all the glitches. Turn off the recording now, but there are some exercises which are worth giving a go to do some translation.